Thank you. And here we go. Welcome to Tales She Told Me, a podcast featuring honest conversation about what it means to be a woman, a mother, and in business. I'm your host, Farrah Haidar. Today, we will be discussing juggling mom life with business, and joining me is Inbal Claudio. Today, first edit of the day. Sorry. Inbal Claudio was born in Israel, and aside from a 4-year stint in North Carolina, has spent the majority of her life in Southern California, where she currently lives with her husband and 2 little daughters. As a candle maker turned tech founder, her passion for networking with women entrepreneurs has led her to create the Like Minded Collective, a social media platform for dreamers, creators, and female founders. Her mission is to make sure every single female founder, no matter what stage of business they're in, know how incredible they are. Inval, thank you for being here. As a fellow creative, I really love this idea of just having a social media platform all our own. And obviously, this is a topic I can relate to as a mom of 2. I have been in business for myself since 2007 and have 2 children of my own. So juggling comes a little naturally. But when people ask me, how do you do so much? My only answer is with very little sleep. Do you have a better answer than that?
That is very funny. No, that is a part of my answer too. I can survive off not much sleep. Very grateful that my 2 girls, they're 3 and 1, so they are finally sleeping better. I am currently pregnant with baby number 3. So come March of 23, which I think you said this is when the podcast is going to come out, my sleep is going to be wonky again. But I will say that I live 7 minutes from my parents, and so they help tremendously. My husband travels for work, so I really rely on them. And I have an incredible nanny, and then my older daughter goes to school. So they say it takes a village, and I'm so grateful for mine.
Well, first, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome news. And
Thank
yes,
you.
I totally agree with the tribe comment. Having parents around, I never did, which was tough. My kids are 13 and 9 now, so they're a little bit older. So tell me a little bit about your own personal journey. I know you mentioned, I think you're married to or were married to a U.S. Marine.
Yes.
Yes, and started COVID. So tell us a little bit about your own journey.
Yeah. So I was born in Israel. I moved to Southern California when I was very young. And like you mentioned, stayed here the majority of my life. Met my husband while he was stationed out here. He was an officer in the Marine Corps. And a year after our first date, we found out we were moving to North Carolina. I was older. He was older. We knew we wanted to be together. So we had like a very quick wedding, knowing we're going to celebrate bigger the next year and plan an actual wedding. But we got married, we moved to North Carolina. I had my candle company then. And then a year after we got married and I had my first daughter. So it was very much a whirlwind because he was in their special operations. So it was a lot of training. And then when my daughter was 6 months old, we moved back to California to be with my parents because he deployed for 6 months. And that's when I started to build my other business in March of 2020, I should add.
Okay. So right at COVID,
right when COVID started.
You have 2 children at this point.
I have one, just a 6-month-old.
Okay, just a 6-month-old. And you said, oh, well, I've got nothing to do. Let's start a business.
Oh, well, the idea came from, so I had my candle company for about a year, and I started in Orange County, California, where I had such amazing connections and friends, and I was doing shows and sales were great. And then we moved to North Carolina and I essentially had to start all over again. So I was doing farmers markets, trade shows, going to like 3-day shows in Charlotte, North Carolina, Raleigh. And when my daughter was born, I was like, I cannot do that anymore, right? I have to pivot more to an online presence. And I just did not know how to do that aside from influencer marketing. And I just felt so defeated because these influencers were charging so much money. These platforms were charging so much money to join without any guaranteed ROI. And I knew that essentially I was in the same boat as millions of people, small business owners, nano micro influencers who couldn't grow their business because they couldn't charge a lot of money. It was just like a chicken and egg problem. So I wanted to create a space for women to connect, to have resources, to be affordable for any woman, regardless of her income and how much she had in the bank. So I came up with the idea for Like Minded Collective when my daughter was 3 months old. This was November of 2019, so 3 years ago. And then when my husband deployed, I was like, this is perfect. I can start building my business, take my mind off my husband being gone. And I have the help because I'm living with my parents. And it just seemed like the perfect time. Little did I know that COVID would actually be beneficial for me because I didn't have to go and meet anybody. Every appointment or meeting I had was virtual. So it really did work in my favor.
Yeah. I actually, that was one of my questions for you is like, did COVID actually help? Because it kind of it does even the playing field a little bit,
Yes.
it does. You're like, I didn't have to go see anybody. I could just sit there with my kid and nobody expected you to not have your kids around.
Exactly. I'll never forget this. I was on Clubhouse and I joined a lot of tech founder rooms and investor rooms. And I was asking that question, when the thought of getting investment was in the back of my head. Now I'm fundraising, but it was in the back of my head. And so I asked, would you tell people that you have a little child or that you're pregnant or you're, whatever it may be? And even men were saying like, yes, that should have nothing to do with you getting fundraising. Now my thoughts have changed a little bit, but the fact that in the beginning of the pandemic, people were expected to have like crying in the background. Like they even said like, don't apologize if your kid is in the background. Like, that's just how it is. You're a mom, So like I said, my thoughts have changed since then. Nobody will know that I'm pregnant. Let me just put it that way.
Oh, I have stories for you. Yeah. I hid my pregnancy for 8 months from clients when I was a marketing freelancer. I didn't tell people I was 8 months. It helped that I was overweight and you couldn't really tell I was pregnant unless you were going to be really rude about it. So, I told them when I was 8 months, and this were people that saw me twice a week.
Wow. Yeah. It's, I don't think it's a benefit. And that's the thing, right? If it's not going to help me, it can only hurt me. And I know my capabilities. I know that I physically cannot stop working. My husband is actually going to have 4 months of paid paternity leave, which is going to be very beneficial for me. So it has nothing to do with my abilities to grow business, to do what I need to do. So it shouldn't matter.
So let me just clarify something because I'm a little. Which business are you fundraising for now? The Like Minded Collective or the?
Yes. So the candle company is still alive. I hand make all the candles, but it really took a back burner when I launched Like Minded Collective February of 22, because there was just so much involved in it. And I can go into specifics of exactly what it is, but essentially I stopped marketing the candle company. People who still order, they order. I still have a candle set up in my house. I still make candles and ship them out, but I don't market it.
Okay. So you're just letting that linger, kind of like a side hustle.
Yeah. It's like my candles are very special because I infuse them all with real gold. So it's really beautiful when it melts and shimmers, and I have very loyal customers. I launched it 5 years ago now. So, they love it and I love making it. So
but scaling it would be difficult. It sounds like,
yeah,
yes.
I would 100%. Well, it's funny because my mother-in-law was in the education space for years, and she actually just retired, wanted to start her own business. So she is a franchise of my candle company.
Oh, wow.
So not an official franchise, but she makes candles and gives me a percentage every quarter.
Wow. So that's so interesting because when I think of scaling, I think of like mass manufacturing, but you're like, no, just get more people, that's really,
Yeah.
that's smart. No, I
And
love her for
it's
that, or
fun
just
for
the whole,
her.
but yeah.
She's like a very big people person and has done shows for like handmade crafts years and years and years ago. So she has that experience. She's a very a people person. So she loves meeting people, talking. She lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. She is now in retail stores. She's doing super, super well. So she's happy. I'm happy. And if I ever shut down, I have a place to send my customers to.
Maybe you should like make her an ambassador, have her find other retirees that want to do this.
I know. Turn it into an MLM business.
Yeah, you never know, that might be your second side hustle, after you have the third kid. And
Oh
also,
my gosh.
so is your husband still in the military, or?
No, so he got out June of what year are we in? Of 21. So he's been out for like a year and a half. And we moved back to Orange County. It was just very difficult for him to be away. Especially when he got back from his first deployment, we got pregnant again. So we have two little girls and it's just difficult. It was difficult for me because I didn't want to marry a Marine. I knew that when we first started dating, like I said, I was older. So I really told him exactly what I wanted. And if that wasn't something that he wanted, then we wouldn't have continued being together. And I told him I don't want to be a military spouse. Traveling, being away from family, that's just not something that I want and that I know that I'm capable of, because I need family. I need my friends. I need community. And so he was on board. And so after 4 years, he got out. Well, after 4 years in doing what he was doing, but he was in for, I think, a total of 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm always awe-inspired by Marines, just knowing what they go through.
Yeah. But now he works for a defense technology company, which is incredible. They do lots of, they have military contracts. So it's very much in his wheelhouse of what he's familiar with. He still travels, which is going to dwindle starting in the new year. But I'm in California around family, so we're okay.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing that you could have done, as you moved back to California. You said, oh, no, I'm not going to be by myself in
Right.
the Carolinas. Okay. So I actually that was one of my planned questions for you, was about being married to a U.S. Marine and how that's affected it. So thank you for answering that. So let's go back to launching during COVID. Now you said, okay, it kind of played a benefit, but you seem to have changed your mind about some of the benefits. So fill me in about a little bit on that.
Yeah. So I'll kind of tell you the process. So basically I was building a tech platform. I had zero tech experience and I didn't really know where to start. My dad was a software engineer by trade, but he had retired. So he kind of knew the questions to ask, but software changes so drastically by the second. So the language that it was written in, he wasn't familiar with. Just the industry in general, he wasn't really familiar with. So I basically went through, I'm on my 4th developer. This one's sticking though. He's incredible and he's US based, but I went through a lot of ups and downs as far as developers because they were outsourcing and I didn't know. So that's definitely the downfall of COVID, right? You're not meeting the person in face to face. There were lots of people without camera capabilities. And I basically learned that I was getting swindled when I was getting swindled after the first year. So that was a little difficult. We had like 8 different launch delays. I ended up launching 2 years after I came up with the idea. And I thought I would launch after 3 months. So there were lots of delays because of COVID and just in general, launching a tech platform.
If it makes you feel any better, my husband is also building an app and he has very similar stories, and he met them face to face, and he actually used to be a software engineer that used to code. So he totally understands everything. And he has a very similar story. So it's not you. Put it that way.
I know.
Just
Well,
me
it's
so.
crazy. It is. Well, I'm looking to build out an app now, and I'm very skeptical because I'm very hard on the people that I meet with and interview and the questions and the process because I've been taken advantage of and I know it happens so much, which is why I'm so obsessed with my developer that I have now. He doesn't just say like, okay, yeah, like we'll get X, Y, and Z done. He brings me into the conversation, into the process. He teaches me, he like brainstorms with me, so he's very involved in what I'm doing and he actually cares. And I found an app developer that's exactly the same way. So once I get funding and then get the app going, I'm going to use him. But it is so difficult. I've heard so many horror stories too, and it happens so often. So I'll give you just a funny example. So my developer works full time for a company. And he said, Inbal, like, I know you're going to have more issues with like bugs and things that need to be fixed right away. And sometimes I can't get to it right away because I'm at my work. So maybe let's bring on like a junior developer that I can oversee, but they'll be available. So I was like, okay, no problem. So we went to Upwork. I told him, I'm like, I'll schedule the initial interview. If I think that they're going to do okay, then we'll schedule an interview with you. I interviewed like 25 people. Like I said, some people had their cameras off as they said they didn't have camera capabilities, which is so hard to believe. Some people were just like, why are you not hiring me? I'm the best out there. And I'm like, well, your attitude for starters. And then I actually got a LinkedIn message from somebody saying, hi, my name is so-and-so. You're supposed to meet with so-and-so tomorrow. Just want you to know they're not real. They want me to come in as them. So I didn't know what was going on at first, but now I do. So I wanted to let you know.
Oh my God.
So that was happening all over the place. And so my developer was like, forget it. I don't trust anybody that you're meeting with. I'll just handle everything and we'll figure it out. But it is a nightmare. It's a nightmare dealing with tech and developers and different corporations and companies. That's why I just stopped working with a project manager. I went straight to just working with a developer one-on-one because it's just been so much better.
Yeah, I'll second that. If you're developing any kind of tech, you need to be meeting directly with the developers because something gets lost in translation.
Yeah.
Both ways. Like sometimes the developer just says, oh, we can do that if you're willing to give up XYZ. And somehow that if falls off and they just tell you they could do it, but they don't tell you all you have to give up to do it. Anyway, so would you say that was like the hardest part of being a non-technical founder of a tech platform, or was there something else that was a little bit more difficult?
I think that was the most frustrating part. There's definitely hurdles as far as just being a business owner in an industry that you're unfamiliar with. However, those are there, I'm able to navigate those, right? Whereas with tech, you're talking and you're frustrated because you don't know what you don't know, and then you learn more. So that was definitely the most frustrating part. And the timing was just horrible. I ended up firing my first developer like 2 months after I got pregnant with my second child. So my hormones were all over the place. It took me 3 months to find my next developer, which turned out horrible. So that was frustrating. I will say, the hardest part was it stemmed from that just because I had so many launch delays that building out a strategy and working with a social media company, which I hired as a huge mistake. I would not do that again. But having to kind of like postpone things and rework strategy and deadlines and launch plans, that was the most difficult part. I just don't like things being out of my control. And I think as business owners, everybody can relate to that.
Yep.
Right. So it was completely out of my control, but I did hire a great company, and they were like helping me build a community via Instagram instead of on the platform. And when I launched, I had a lot of people that signed up. So it worked. It wasn't a waste of time, but it was very frustrating at the time, just pouring money into something that wasn't even looking like it was going to launch anytime soon.
That's that's so interesting. I have a couple of questions for you about it all, but one of the things that strikes me difficult about something like a like-minded collective is breaking people's habits. I mean, everyone's used to going on Facebook and Instagram, right? But now they have this third specialty social media platform. It's very different, right? It's not the same. But are they in the habit of going there? Like, how do you convince? Because I'm part of a lot of kind of marketing groups and stuff, and there's literally I've seen all of them try to get off Facebook groups and end up somewhere like in their own specialty app. And I think out of all the marketing groups that have tried it, only one has successfully done it. And that's just because they store all of their educational material on that app and they lock it down. They don't put anything on Facebook. But all the other ones that I've been part of have literally flipped back to Facebook. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on like getting people to go to a different place.
Yeah, and that's difficult, which is why I'm building out an app. Um, I'll tell you this, there are lots of female communities out there, which is why I don't market myself as a community. I market myself as a social media platform or social networking platform, because these female communities are all on Circle, Mighty Networks. They're all on the same app. They all look the same. They all function the same. The only difference is what they name the boards and the name of the community. So they're all the same, and they're not able to adapt to the user experience and the user interface if there's an issue. So that was my biggest thing. I wanted to create a platform that was completely custom, that I had full control over and was able to really optimize for my user 100%. So it's difficult, and there's ways that you can kind of get more people to the platform. So just one of the things we do is you can create a profile, you can search. We have an awesome search function, unlike Facebook and Instagram, which is so time consuming and horrible. There's message, so you can message people one-on-one, have conversations that way. And then we have a feed as well. So you can post, you can comment, you can like, and we send out 2 emails a day, one at noon and one at 6 p.m. based on your time zone. And that brings people back on because they see the notifications in their inbox. So people automatically go and sign back on. And my whole goal was just to make this a genuine community of women. So that brings people back because they're meeting for coffee. They're actually meeting for drinks. They're having podcast swaps. They're referring business. I have a friend who is going through some medical stuff that she posted about. And so somebody reached out, and now she's friends with her and helping her and supporting her. So really, by creating that sense of genuine friendships instead of here's my course, here's my freebie, sign up for this, which people do, and that's fine. They're entrepreneurs, but it really goes deeper than that. And I think that's what brings people back. We also do weekly workshops and we do monthly networking events. And so people are actually getting to know people personally because I always do introductions. It's not just the chat box, like you can actually talk and say your name and do hot seat coaching. So I think because of that genuine connection, and people, will get emotional on the call, they'll go through something that's really difficult for them in business and have a breakthrough through the coach or the expert that's teaching. And that's what brings people back. So it's not easy. It is so difficult, but I also started an affiliate program. And so I have women who are obsessed with my platform and my community, and they talk about it because they are welcome and they feel loved and cared for. And that's how they portray it. And so they bring people in. So it's very much a process, but it all goes back to just actually caring for people and making people feel like they're important and that they matter, because all these other communities, they're a subscriber, they're a number, are you going to upgrade? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? We're here. It's like, how are you feeling today? Like, what are you struggling with in business that we can help you with, and how can we support you? So I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I'll have to tell you, I started a huge network as well, kind of network community group back. God, I'm dating myself. Back in the 2000s, but like in the early 2001, 2002. And I will have to tell you, people don't realize, everyone thinks they can just throw a group together and it'll all just magically come together. And I'm like, No, without a community manager, someone driving the conversation, someone being a facilitator, someone making introductions, remembering important dates, doing that kind of stuff, it does not come together because
Right.
people are shy and they don't feel ownership, right? It's your community. You started it. You feel ownership. And it's not that people can't start feeling ownership, it's that they're not going to feel that way during day one, right? You're the one that has to foster that in them. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I send out a message when people sign up. I give them a few days and then I send out a message and just like welcome them. Like, hey, my name is Inbal. I'm the founder. Like, please let me know what brought you to the community. That way I can help lead you in the direction of the best way to utilize the platform, the events. And I think the fact that it's free too, I think that just shows that we have like no ulterior motive. Everything is free right now, 100%. When this episode launches, there's going to be some aspects that are monetized, just like the education for a small price, but the platform will always be free. It's a social networking platform. Everyone is welcome. Anybody who posts anything negative will be instantly deleted. So like that's a non-negotiable, but it's free.
Yeah.
And with that comes people who don't question everything. So they're more open, they're more willing to sign on and check it out. They don't feel pressure. I know a lot of people are saying, if people don't invest in something that they don't really put effort into it, I really haven't noticed that at all. I've noticed so much more engagement, so much more community, so many more people sharing genuinely about it. So I've seen the opposite effect.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I do want to go back to something you mentioned. You mentioned that you are now raising money. All
Yeah.
right. So I've heard a lot of talk about raising money as a woman, especially, I don't know what round you're looking for, where you are. You're looking at angels or VCs or whatnot. But I'd love to get your just take on raising money as a woman and how it may be different. Because you mentioned like I'm no longer mentioning I have kids. I'm no longer like I want there's something there. I want to hear it.
Yeah. So I'm mentioning that I have kids. That's a part of my pitch and a part of my story and why I started the platform. So that's definitely going in there, but I'm not mentioning that I'm pregnant. I am currently in the very, very, very early stages. So I have my pitch, I have my pitch deck. I've pitched a few people for advice, but I'm putting together a list of people. I will tell you this. I'm raising a seed round, which is after friends and family, but I've had people I'm only looking for women. I was in the beginning stages, basically going on LinkedIn and putting in angel investors and sifting through. There's not many women angel investors. So I was sifting a lot. And I just realized that I was looking for the wrong person. I was looking for a woman in tech. I was looking for a woman who worked or was a part of a VC fund or owned a fund, or VC funds that were women focused. But it's difficult to relate to people like that because they don't need this platform.
Yeah.
So I've really shifted the person that I'm looking for actually like the last 2 days. And I'm going more for strategic female angel investors. And those women are influencers. They're influential business coaches, women who speak at entrepreneurial conferences, who make $1 to $5 million a year, who love women, know that there's a gap in the marketplace for something like this, and have a huge following of women who would be perfect for the platform. So that's kind of how I've shifted the whole like way, since even just like having my idea for this platform. Every guy I've spoken to, a podcast that I've been on that are run by men, they're like, why is it for women only? Why do you not do this? Why do you not pitch to men? Men can be so valuable. Because they don't understand why. They don't understand my why. They don't understand why it's free. They don't understand why I'm really making it only for women. They will never understand. So it's it's a hard decision for me to just say only women. And when women investors say you should pitch to men, it's hard for me to tell them thanks, but no, thank you. Because I don't want to. And I don't need funding. This platform is growing. There's plenty of people who love it, but I do want to make it an app. I do want to grow faster because I want more women on here and I want more women to know about it. And I want to bring on my developer full time and things like that. So the necessity for money is also helping me kind of like really put my priorities straight. And yeah, just shifting and like really sticking to your gut. But even with women, I will not say that I'm pregnant.
Yeah, again, something I can completely relate to. But so you started out during COVID and you were like, oh, it made it a little bit easier because everything could be virtual. How has that kind of shifted as COVID has, died down and things have opened back up and we're in a new place now? Like what do you do now? Because you still have young children at home and now you're pregnant. So there's still the realities of I have kids to take care of.
Yeah.
Um, so how have you kind of managed through that?
Um, Things were closed for a while.
Mhm.
And recently I went to a conference. Actually, I went to a female entrepreneurial conference in Arizona, and my husband was home with the girls. And it was so nice to just be around women. But it's still, everyone is so accustomed to Zooms and meetings and things like that. So things are kind of the same. But the goal is to eventually host an in-person event for Like-Minded Collective in 2024. We're hosting a virtual one January this coming year. But it's kind of been the same. I'm curious, actually, to see how things go once I get some investors, because if I can travel to them, if they require travel, just to meet with them or pitch or something like that, that's something that is definitely I'm open to do and I would like to do. But I'm actually also curious about that same question. So we'll see, but I'm open to it.
So you also mentioned that you do a lot of you did a lot of collaborations, especially with, I believe, the candle company, correct?
With other businesses, yes.
Yeah. So what are some tips for brands and influencers to find collaborations that would work for them?
Yeah. So there's so many things to that. I think how do I say this? I think the main goal should be to find somebody that's compatible. So not necessarily how many followers people have or how many followers they can get me, but really the compatibility of the two brands and just to be authentic about it. So for me, for candles, I worked with a lot of jewelry designers. I worked with a lot of like apparel companies. A good example would be one that we did for Valentine's Day. So it was like candles and like heart leggings. And so just to find somebody who you're compatible with and somebody who's in your price range, but to really also value the collaboration that's going. So either whether you're collaborating with another brand, like to do a giveaway, like I just mentioned, or an influencer, if you feel like you can't pay them, don't look for somebody who has 100,000 followers. Look for somebody who has less than 1,000 and reach out and ask questions and kind of make it worth their while. But just to be genuine about your approach and your outreach, I think is the most important thing.
That's awesome. Great, great, great. So now I get to ask you a question that I ask all of the people that come on this show. But I always like to hear it. It's, what is a weird habit or ritual you have that makes your life more joyful?
So I honestly don't know if I even have a weird habit or ritual, but I do have a ritual that I like. So I love ocean air. And when I feel very overwhelmed or I just need to step away, I will go to the beach. So whether that be getting a coffee early morning and taking a walk, or going to get some lunch and sitting at an overlook point, or just going to get like a milk tea and sitting there and just for 5 minutes, or just even a drive down the coast, that brings me so much joy.
I totally feel you. I moved from Boston to Atlanta. Atlanta's completely landlocked. And that is
Mm,
the thing that I didn't think I would miss it this much. But then I realized I have never lived away from the ocean before moving to Atlanta. So I am with you on that one.
yes.
So, Inbal, it was a pleasure having you. And for those of you out there listening, if you would like to hear more from Inbal and maybe learn to juggle a little better, go to her website, www.likemindedcollective.com. All links in the show notes below. As always, I'd love to hear from you about this episode. How do you juggle it all? Hit me up on Instagram or Facebook at Farrah Haidar. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you'll get notified when a next episode is available. Also, I'm giving away a PDF of some of the best quotes we've had on the show, beautifully designed to print and journal your thoughts. Email me at farrah@farrahhaidar.com and title it Quotes. Talk to you soon. Till then, chase your happy.